A hand shoved her hard against the hood of a sedan. Metal clanged as her hip slammed into it. Her cheek pressed against warm paint. Two men wrenched her arms behind her back. Handcuffs bit into her wrists and clicked shut. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She asked one quiet question: why? Nobody answered. Behind the glass of the back seat, a big German shepherd threw himself against the window, barking until his voice cracked. The younger officer laughed at her wrinkled clothes. He called her confused. He told her to sit tight and stop lying. What none of them knew was that the woman in the cuffs was Eleanor Vance, a two-star general in the United States Army, and she was allowed exactly one phone call. What did that call cost them? Stay with me. Let me back up about 20 minutes because you need to see how ordinary this started. Eleanor Vance had been driving for 11 hours. 2 states, 1 gas station sandwich, a thermos of coffee that ran dry around noon. She was 61 years old and she'd earned every one of those years the hard way. But that afternoon she wasn't a general. She was just a tired woman in a gray Honda, wearing a wrinkled travel shirt and jeans, driving home to Fayetteville with her dog in the back seat. That dog was Ranger, a German shepherd big through the chest, muzzle gone silver with age. Ranger wasn't a pet. Not exactly. He'd done 4 deployments as a working military dog, sniffing out explosives in places most people will never have to think about. He was retired now, and Eleanor had adopted him herself when nobody else stepped up. She figured a soldier who'd given that much deserved a soft couch for whatever years he had left. Ranger figured he still had a job, and his job was her. She saw the flashing lights up ahead on the 2-lane road, a police checkpoint. Cones, a couple of cruisers angled across the lane, 3 officers waving cars through one at a time. Nothing unusual. She slowed down, rolled her window halfway, and waited her turn like everybody else. Now here's the thing about Eleanor. She was calm by training and calm by nature. 38 years in uniform teaches you that panic never once solved a problem. So when the young officer stepped up and shone a flashlight in her face in broad daylight, she just smiled and said good afternoon. The officer's name was Tyler Doss, 26 years old. 3 years on the force, and every one of them had convinced him he was smarter than the people he pulled over. He looked at her wrinkled shirt. He looked at the tired lines on her face. He looked at the old dog in the back seat that had started to growl low in his throat, the way dogs do when they read a room faster than people can. "License and registration," Doss said. "No good afternoon back." Eleanor reached slowly for the glove box. "They're right in here. My registration and my military ID are both in the—" "Keep your hands where I can see them." His voice jumped a notch. His partner, an older man named Kessler, drifted over from the second cruiser, thumbs hooked in his belt. Eleanor froze her hands right where they were. "Officer, I'm going to open the glove box. That's all that's in there." "Papers." Ranger barked. One sharp, cracking bark that made Doss flinch and put his hand on his sidearm. "Control your animal," Doss snapped. "He's controlled," Eleanor said evenly. "He barks when a stranger raises his voice at me. That's his training. Lower your voice and he'll settle." That was the wrong thing to say to a man like Tyler Doss. Not because it was rude. It was calm and clear and correct, and that's exactly what set him off. Because to a certain kind of small man, a calm woman explaining something feels like being talked down to. He decided in 4 seconds that this tired old lady was going to be a problem, and now he was going to make sure she was. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. "May I ask why?" And there it is. That's the question that started the whole thing. "May I ask why?" Not screamed, not sarcastic, just a person asking a simple, reasonable thing. "Because I told you to," Doss said. "Out now." Eleanor opened her door and stepped out onto the shoulder, both hands visible, moving like someone trained her whole life not to give anyone an excuse. Inside the car, Ranger went wild, throwing himself against the window, barking himself hoarse, because his person was outside and surrounded by men who didn't smell right. "That dog comes out, I put it down," Das said. "You understand me?" That was the first moment Alina's calm cracked, not into fear, into something colder. She turned her head and looked at him full in the face. And if Tyler Das had known how to read people the way that old dog did, he would have taken a step back. "That dog," she said quietly, "has a service record longer than yours. Now what did you stop me for?" Kessler spoke up. "Ma'am, there was a report. Stolen vehicle matching this description came through the area. We just need to confirm." "Then confirm it," Alina said. "My name is on the registration. Let me hand it to you." But Das wasn't listening. He'd heard her tell him what to do one too many times. He grabbed her arm. And that's where the ordinary afternoon ended. Because you can be the most patient person on earth. You can do everything right. And it doesn't matter one bit if the man in front of you has already decided who you are. Das spun her toward the car. Her hip hit the hood. He wrenched one arm up behind her back, hard enough that a younger person would have cried out, and Alina just set her jaw and breath through it. Kessler hesitated, then grabbed the other arm because that's what you do when your partner commits. The cuffs came out. They clicked shut over wrists that had been saluted by 3,000 soldiers. "You're detained," Das said, breathing hard, proud of himself. "Resisting, failure to comply." "I didn't resist anything," Alina said into the hood of her own car. "Save it." Ranger was screaming now. There's no other word for the sound a loyal dog makes when it watches someone hurt the one person it loves. He clawed at the glass and the whole car rocked with it. The third officer, a kid barely out of the academy named Prout, jogged over. "What do you want me to do about the dog?" "Nothing yet," Das said. He was walking Alina toward the cruiser now, one hand on the back of her neck. "We'll deal with the dog after." "Check the glove box," Alina said. She said it 3 times as they walked. "Check the glove box. My ID is in the glove box. Read the ID and then decide what you want to do with your afternoon." "Lady, I don't care if you're the Queen of England," Das said, and he laughed, and Prout laughed with him because that's what you do when the senior guy laughs. "Watch your head." He put her in the back of the cruiser, the door shut. And for the first time in 20 minutes it went quiet. Now this is the part where you'd think it gets worse, and it will. But first it got calm, and the calm is the part you need to watch because the calm is a lie. Alina sat in the back of that cruiser with her hands cuffed behind her, and she made herself breathe. Slow. In through the nose, out through the mouth. She'd been in worse rooms than this. A hot cruiser in Fayetteville with a couple of small-town cops was not going to be the thing that broke her. Outside, Kessler pulled Das aside. You could see it through the windshield even if you couldn't hear it. The older man had his palms down, the universal signal for slow down. He glanced back at the Honda, at the old dog, at the gray-haired woman sitting perfectly still. 22 years on the job teaches you what a real criminal looks like, and it doesn't look like a tired grandmother who keeps calmly telling you to check her glove box. Kessler walked over to the cruiser and opened the door a few inches. He crouched down. "Ma'am," he said, and his voice was different now. Lower. "I'm going to get you some water. Then we're going to run your plate and get this sorted out. Just sit tight, probably a mix-up." Alina looked at him. "The plate will come back to me, Alina Vance. So will the registration. So will the ID your partner won't look at." "Okay," Kessler said. "Okay." He came back with a bottle of water and held it to her lips so she could drink because her hands were still cuffed. She drank. She nodded her thanks. And for one long moment, it felt like the whole thing was going to deflate. Like Kessler was going to run the plate, see the truth, uncuff her, apologize, and send everybody home with a bad story to tell at dinner. Elinor let herself believe it just a little. She leaned her head back against the seat. She closed her eyes. The dog had even stopped barking. Somewhere a radio crackled softly. It was almost over, that's what she thought. It was almost over. It wasn't. It was about to get so much worse. Because the radio that crackled softly wasn't Kessler running her plate. It was dispatch, calling back with the results of the stolen vehicle report, and the report was wrong. The stolen car was a gray Honda, yes. But a different year, a different plate, 3 counties over, recovered an hour ago. This wasn't it. This was never it. And instead of saying that out loud, instead of walking over and unlocking those cuffs, Tyler Doss keyed his radio and did something that turned a mistake into a crime. Yeah, dispatch, be advised, we've got a non-compliant subject, possible resisting, and an aggressive animal on scene. Requesting animal control for a K-9 removal and a tow for the vehicle. Subjects going to central booking. Kessler's head snapped up. Doss, what are you doing? The plate came back clean. This isn't the car. She resisted, Doss said flatly. She put her hands on me. She didn't put her hands on anybody. I was standing right there. You want to write it up your way, write it up your way, Doss said. I'm writing it mine. And that dog's a public safety hazard. It goes to the county shelter. Aggressive animal, no proof of vaccination, we're within policy. That word, policy, that's the word small men hide behind when they've decided to do something cruel and want a reason it isn't their fault. Now stop and feel what just changed, because this is the turn. 2 minutes ago this was one bad cop being stubborn about a traffic stop, wounded pride. The kind of thing sorted out with an apology. But the second Doss keyed that radio, it stopped being about pride. Now there was paperwork, a booking number waiting. A tow truck coming for her car and a county truck coming for Ranger, an 11-year-old dog with a bad hip who wouldn't survive a cold concrete kennel, and a needle from a stranger. Now it wasn't Elinor against Doss. It was Elinor against the whole machine. The report, the charge. The system that closes ranks around its own the second one member decides to save face. And the machine doesn't care that you're innocent. It only cares what's written down. Elinor heard all of it through the cracked door. And for the first time that day, her heart actually started to pound. Not for herself. She could sit in a cell for a night. But Ranger had 30 minutes, maybe, before a county truck showed up and a man with a catch pole dragged a terrified old soldier out of the only safe place he had left. And a dog like that doesn't come quietly. And Elinor knew exactly how that story ended. She leaned forward against her cuffs. Officer Kessler. He crouched back down and his face was pale now. He knew. He'd heard the plate come back clean too. I'm allowed a phone call, Elinor said. Her voice had changed. It wasn't pleading anymore. It was the voice of someone giving an order and expecting it followed. You know I'm allowed a phone call before that dog gets taken, right now. Kessler looked back at Doss, who was leaning against a cone with his arms crossed, enjoying himself. Then Kessler looked at the woman in the back seat, and something in her steadiness made up his mind. Doss, she gets her call. That's not a maybe. She gets it before animal control shows or you and I are both hanging out to dry. Doss rolled his eyes. Fine, give the grandma her phone call. Who's she gonna call? Her bingo club. Kessler reached into her car, got her phone from the cup holder and held it up to the window. You tell me the number. I'll dial speaker. Elinor didn't hesitate. She didn't call a lawyer. She didn't call the base directly because the base was a bureaucracy and bureaucracies are slow, and Ranger did not have time for slow. She gave Kessler 10 digits she knew by heart, a number belonging to a man she trusted more than almost anyone alive. The phone rang twice. Then a voice answered, steady, clipped, wide awake even though it was the middle of a workday. Brenner. And Alina Vance closed her eyes and said 4 words that were about to end 4 careers. Dale, it's General Vance. There was a pause on the line, half a second. You could almost hear the man on the other end sit up straight. General, the voice snapped into something crisp and alert. Ma'am, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. I need you to listen carefully because I only have a minute. Her voice was perfectly level. I'm on Route 87 outside Fayetteville at a police checkpoint. I've been detained. I'm handcuffed in the back of a cruiser. They ran my plate, it came back clean, it was the wrong vehicle, and instead of releasing me, an officer has filed a false resisting charge and called for a tow and animal control. They're about to take Ranger to the county shelter as an aggressive animal. Dale, they're going to put him down. The pause this time was shorter, and when Commander Dale Brenner spoke again, his voice had gone very, very quiet. And I want you to understand, a quiet voice from a man like that is far more frightening than a loud one. Say the name of the officer. Now let me tell you who was on the other end of that phone, because everything hinges on it. Commander Dale Brenner was a decorated Navy SEAL, 20 years in the teams, 2 silver stars he never talked about, and the reason he was the man he'd become was sitting handcuffed in a police cruiser. Because 15 years earlier, when Dale Brenner was a hot-headed young officer about to throw away his whole career, it was then Colonel Alina Vance who'd pulled him into a room, closed the door, and set him straight. She'd vouched for him when nobody else would. And in 20 years of combat, Dale Brenner had learned to fear exactly one person's disappointment, and it was hers. You do not want to be the person who put General Alina Vance in handcuffs when Dale Brenner finds out about it. You just don't. His name is Das, Alina said. There's another officer named Kessler who's been decent. Don't let anything land on Kessler. This is one man. Understood. In the background, you could hear a chair scrape and a door open. He was already moving. Ma'am, are you hurt? My shoulder, nothing serious. Is Ranger still in the vehicle? Yes. Then here's what's going to happen. His voice was calm and total, a man reading off a plan he'd already finished making. I am 9 minutes out. Hand the phone to the decent one, Kessler. And General, do not say another word to the one named Das. Not one. Let him keep talking. Every word he says right now is a word I'm going to use. Alina almost smiled. Copy that, Commander. Hoo-ah, ma'am. And you could hear it in his voice, the fear underneath, wound tight, the fear of a man who would burn the world down before he let this stand. Now, quick pause because we've hit the first real turn and I don't want you to miss what's coming. If this story's got its hooks in you, if you want to see exactly how far one phone call reaches, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. It genuinely helps these stories find the people who need them. All right. Back to that checkpoint where Dale Brenner is 9 minutes out in closing. Kessler took the phone. This is Officer Kessler. He listened. Whatever Brenner said, Kessler's face went from pale to gray. He started nodding. The way you nod when a superior officer is telling you the exact size of the hole you're standing in. Yes, sir. The plate came back clean, that's yes. I noted it in the log. No, I have not touched the animal. I will not let anyone touch the animal. She's not hurt bad, sir. I got her water. Understood. He's here now, I can, yes. Kessler lowered the phone and turned to Das, and his voice was shaking. You need to come hear this. I'm not talking to Grandma's lawyer, Das said. It's not a lawyer, Kessler swallowed. It's a Navy SEAL commander, and he's got the base provost marshal on the other line, and he says he's 9 minutes out and he wants your badge number. For the first time, something flickered across Tyler Doss's face. He's bluffing. Old lady's got a friend who talks big. So what? So what? Kessler's voice cracked. Doss, the plate came back clean. You filed a false charge and called for a tow on a vehicle that came back clean, and you called animal control on a retired military working dog. And there is a 2-star general sitting in the back of my cruiser, and you put her there. The word landed, 2-star general. Doss laughed, but it came out thin. There's no general. Look at her. Look at what she's wearing. Read her ID. Kessler was already moving toward the Honda. He opened the passenger door. Ranger lunged from the back seat, teeth bared, and Kessler stopped cold, hands up. Easy, easy, boy. I'm not gonna touch you. I'm just getting her papers. He reached slowly toward the glove box, keeping his eyes on the dog. Ranger watched him, growling low, but he didn't bite. Somehow the old dog understood the difference between a threat and a man moving slow with his hands where you could see them. Kessler opened the glove box. On top of the registration was a leather ID holder. He flipped it open, and there it was, a Department of Defense identification card, photo of the woman in the cruiser, younger, in dress uniform, and the rank printed clear as day, Major General Eleanor R. Vance, United States Army. 2 stars. Kessler stood there holding it, and all the color drained out of the afternoon. Everything the woman had told them calmly, patiently, 3 times. Check the glove box. It had all been true the whole time. A card that would have ended this whole thing in 10 seconds had been sitting 18 inches from Tyler Doss the entire time, and he'd been too busy being right to look at it. Doss, Kessler said quietly, holding the card up, come look at this. Doss walked over, slow, and when he actually read the words Major General, you could watch it hit him. His mouth opened, closed. The smug set of his shoulders just fell apart. That could be fake, he said, and even he didn't believe it. That's when the black SUV came around the bend. It didn't speed. It didn't need to. It rolled up smooth and controlled, and it stopped, and a man got out. Not tall particularly, but built like something you'd think twice about. Short hair going gray at the sides. Civilian clothes, but the way he moved told you everything squared away, not one wasted motion. And his eyes went straight to the cruiser, straight to the gray-haired woman with her hands cuffed behind her. Dale Brenner had made it in 7 minutes, not 9. He walked to the cruiser first, not to the officers, to her. He crouched at the open door and looked at her the way you look at someone you'd take a bullet for, and his jaw was tight. Ma'am, Dale, are these cuffs coming off in the next 30 seconds, or do I need to make some more phone calls? They're coming off, Kessler said quickly, already fumbling for his key. Sir, right now. He reached in and unlocked the cuffs, and Eleanor brought her arms around slowly, rubbing her wrists, and Brenner took her elbow and helped her out like she was made of glass, and the whole time his eyes never left Doss. Eleanor stood up, rolled her shoulders, and became, in front of everyone, exactly who she was. She didn't need the uniform. 38 years of command settled onto her, and suddenly the wrinkled shirt didn't matter at all. Every one of those officers was looking at a general now, and they all knew it. Get the dog, she said quietly. He's frightened. Let me get the dog. She walked to the Honda and opened the back door, and Ranger poured out and pressed himself against her legs, shaking. And she went down on one knee right there on the shoulder of the road and put her arms around that old dog's neck and held him. And the dog buried his silver muzzle in her shoulder and finally stopped barking. That's the picture. A 2-star general kneeling in the dirt, holding a trembling old soldier of a dog, while 4 police officers stood around not knowing where to look. Then she stood back up and turned around, and it was time. Brenner spoke first, and his voice carried without ever getting loud. My name is Commander Dale Brenner, United States Navy. On the phone with me right now is Colonel Ramirez, the Provost Marshal at Fort Bragg, and Chief Danforth of the Fayetteville Police Department, who I called personally on the way here. The chief would like a word with whoever's in charge of this checkpoint. He held out his phone. Nobody took it. Nobody, Brenner said. All right, I'll narrate then. In the last 20 minutes, you detained a 2-star general on a stolen vehicle report that came back clean. You have that in your own dispatch log. When the plate cleared, instead of releasing her, one of you filed a false charge of resisting. You refused repeatedly to check identification sitting in the glove box. Identification she asked you to check at least 3 times on your body cameras. And then you called animal control to seize and destroy a retired military working dog. Do I have any of that wrong? Silence. I asked if I have any of that wrong. No, sir, Kessler said. You don't have it wrong. Brenner looked at him. You're Kessler. Yes, sir. You logged the clean plate. You got her water. You unlocked the cuffs without being told twice, and you didn't touch the dog. Brenner nodded once. You made mistakes today, but you're the only one on this shoulder who tried to fix them. Remember that when the reports get written. Then his eyes moved, slow and cold, to Tyler Doss. You're Doss. Doss's mouth worked. Sir, there was a report I was following. The report cleared and you know it. Chief, Brenner said into the phone, I'm looking at him now. Badge visible. You getting the body camera pull. Good. He lowered the phone and looked at Doss. And for a moment, he didn't say anything at all. And that silence was the worst thing that had happened to Tyler Doss all day. You want to know what actually ended your career, Brenner said finally. It wasn't the wrong car. Anybody can pull the wrong car. It was that she asked you why. That's all she did. She asked you a simple question, calm as anything, and you couldn't stand it. So you put a United States general in handcuffs to feel big. And then you were going to kill her dog to feel bigger. He shook his head slowly. There's no report in the world that covers that. Doss didn't have anything left. He looked at the ground. Now you might be thinking, so it's over, they got caught, maybe a slap on the wrist. That's not what happened. Let me tell you what actually happened to each of them. Chief Danforth arrived in person 11 minutes later. He was not a man who wanted a lawsuit and a national headline both landing on his department in the same week. The body camera footage was pulled that same afternoon, and it showed everything, exactly as Brenner had laid it out. The plate coming back clean over the radio. Doss filing the false charge anyway. Alina asking, 3 separate times in a calm voice, to have her glove box checked. The threat to put the dog down. Tyler Doss was placed on unpaid administrative leave that evening. The false resisting charge was voided before it ever reached a magistrate. Within 6 weeks, after an internal review he could not talk his way out of, he was terminated not just for the false report, but for filing a knowingly false charge and for ordering the destruction of an animal out of spite. The district attorney declined to bring criminal charges only because Alina asked him not to. She said the man losing the badge was punishment enough, and dragging it through a trial would only feed him the attention he craved. It wasn't forgiveness. It was her deciding he wasn't worth another minute of her life. Officer Prout, the rookie who'd laughed along, was suspended, retrained, and reassigned. He kept his job by the thinnest margin, and by all accounts he became a better cop for it, because a scare like that either ruins a young officer or wakes him up, and Prout woke up. And Kessler. Sergeant Kessler kept his stripes. Alina made one phone call on his behalf, the only call she made in anyone's favor, and told the chief plainly that the man had tried to stop it, and that if the department wanted to keep the kind of officer who does the right thing when it's inconvenient, they should hold on to him. They did. That's the thing people always get wrong about power, the kind Alina Vance had. They think it's about crushing your enemies. It isn't. It's about knowing precisely who deserves the weight to come down and who deserves to be lifted up, and having the steadiness to tell the difference in the middle of the worst moment of your day. As for the day itself, Alina didn't press a lawsuit against the city. She could have. Half the lawyers in the state would have lined up and she'd have won. But she didn't want money and she didn't want to fight. What she wanted, she got in writing. A formal apology, a full policy review on identity verification and on the seizure of service animals, and a mandatory training program built around one simple idea, that when a citizen calmly asks you why, the answer is never handcuffs. They named the training after the incident without her name attached because she asked them to keep her name out of it. The sun was going down by the time it all wrapped up. Alina stood by her old gray Honda with Ranger leaning against her leg, and Dale Brenner stood beside her, and for a while neither of them said anything. "You didn't have to drive out here yourself," she said finally. "You could have made the calls from your office." "No," Brenner said, "I couldn't have." She looked at him and something in her face softened. "You were scared." "I've never been more scared in my life than the second you said you were in cuffs." He said it plainly, no shame in it. 20 years in the teams, and the one thing that ever put ice in my chest was hearing your voice on a phone telling me you needed help. So no, ma'am. I wasn't making that call from a desk. Alina reached over and put her hand on his arm. "You did good, Dale." And that big, decorated, silver-haired warrior who'd run into places that would break most men, he had to look away for a second because those 3 words from her still meant more to him than every ribbon in that drawer at home. She knelt down again and cupped Ranger's face in both hands. The old dog's tail thumped against the gravel. "You did good too," she told him. "You barked yourself hoarse for me. You didn't stop, not once." And Ranger licked her cheek. And that was the whole conversation, because a dog doesn't need words to say "I would have died for you," and you know it. You want to know what I keep coming back to about this whole thing? It's not the reveal. It's not the SEAL commander or the 2 stars or the career's ending. It's the very beginning. A tired woman in wrinkled clothes, calm as still water, asking one simple question. "May I ask why?" Because here's what Tyler Doss never understood and what a lot of loud, small men never understand. The calmest person in the room is almost never the weakest one. Usually it's the exact opposite. Alina Vance didn't raise her voice one time that whole afternoon. She didn't need to. She'd spent 38 years learning that the loudest person in any room is usually the most frightened, and the quiet one holding perfectly still is the one you should worry about. She held still. She asked why. And when the moment came, one phone call from that stillness reached farther than all of Doss's shouting ever could. She got back in her car as the last light faded. Ranger climbed into the passenger seat this time, right up front next to her, and put his silver head on her lap. Brenner shut her door, tapped the roof twice, and stepped back. She rolled down the window. "Dinner Sunday." "Wouldn't miss it, General." And she drove home. Same road, same wrinkled shirt, same tired old dog. The only thing that had changed was that 4 men now understood something they should have understood at the start, that you never really know who you're talking to. That the person you're tempted to look down on might be carrying more than you could imagine. And that the smallest question in the world, asked calmly by the right person, can bring the whole sky down on you if you answer it with cruelty instead of respect. She just wanted to go home. In the end, that's all she'd ever wanted, to drive home with her dog and rest. And this time, nobody stopped her. The Titan script runs approximately 4,990 words inside the 4,805,200 target. The hook is 150 words verbatim, the false calm, "It was almost over." The trigger, the radio/false charge, the CTA after the phone call payoff, and the full ending are all intact. Cuts came entirely from the middle, doubled narrator asides, the repeated breakdowns of Das's psychology, and a few redundant descriptive beats.